Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our very, very unique webinar, we think. I'd like to introduce myself first of all. My name is Lynn van den Berg. I'm the Sales Director for Trodat Trotec Group in South Africa. I have the very fortunate job of not only selling stamps and Trotec engraving equipment, but also our craft range. As part of this journey of my career, we started a local scrapbooking range called Penelope Dee about 4.5 years ago with the very talented Glenda Viljoen. Glenda is a doyen in the South African scrapbooking world, very, very talented lady, and certainly has brought a lot of techniques and product to our market. She's very adventurous with what she uses, and that's always been our very, very unique selling point for Penelope Dee. So a lot of you won't know what Penelope Dee is, but Penelope Dee is a local range of paper where we design between 6 and 12 sheets of paper per range. It's always a double-sided paper, and people use this then to make scrapbooks, which we will show you a little bit later. But as part of the journey, we realized that we were so unique in that we had the opportunity to use our Trotec lasers to develop our own embellishments. And we have very skilled technicians here, and they were able to breathe some life into some very old equipment for us. So at the beginning of our journey, we actually started with old Speedy 1s and Speedy 2s. And so we've developed as we've grown, and now we have 2 lasers working full-time for our Penelope Dee range. Right in the beginning, we were so excited because we managed to produce MDF titles. And we were very proud of these, and we still are. But as Trotec started offering more and more consumables, so we started realizing that we had so much opportunity to grow and to offer unique products, which we could then use on our scrapbook pages. So they released ADA, we released ADA. We're a stamp company. We made stamps. We love stamps here. So anything we can stamp, we stamp. Trotec released cork. So we released cork. Trotec released Trocraft. So we released Trocraft. It was really a wonderfully exciting and very creative journey, really, wasn't it, Glenda? Now Trotec will be releasing leather, so we've got leather. And we've used leather in our projects just because it's so versatile and very earthy, correct? But the idea of using these products is not to use them in their naked form. The idea is for us to actually alter these and to add our inks and our products, which we sell as part of our Trocraft division, to these laminates and woods and papers and things. One of the products we use the most, of course, is our Mylar Stencils. Cuts beautifully on the laser and very, very easy to use and so versatile because so many of the products, whether it's an ink, a spray, a wax, a mixture, a texture paste, paint, anything can be used with these stencils. So really it gives us a lot of versatility in our scrapbooking pages. We then also have our most popular product is a paperboard. Our paperboard is quite unique in that it is coated, which means that the way it handles the ink is so different to a paperboard that's not coated. It holds certain inks much better. It allows inks to shine much better. And then at the beginning, we decided, and we cut all these words and we cut embellishments with it. And then we used the inks on it. But then we discovered that actually we could engrave this product. And then we started engraving it. And we produced these wonderful elements for our scrapbook pages that really allow us to showcase not only the Trotec lasers, but also the product that we use on it.
Do you want to show them that? Here we go.
This, for example, comes from a paper. It's then altered using a multitude of inks, waxes, etc. And it really does come out looking a bit like a medal, correct? So with our very, very cheap paper, we are able to alter things in order to make it look very, very different. So when we say we do scrapbooking, an example of scrapbooking would be this page here. In South Africa, people love a double page spread. It's very visual. You can hang it on your wall. And scrapbooking allows you to tell a story using your photographs. Because most of us now keep our photographs on our telephones. We forget to print them, and we forget to actually show people. So with scrapbooking, you can either put them on an album, or you could frame it much like this picture. So here you can see a lot of what we've done on the laser engraver, for example. The paper obviously has been fussy cut, correct, Glenda?
Mm-hmm.
Here we have some acetate sheets. I'm assuming these have been stamped.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have some engraved elements, obviously changed with the ink. We have the flares over here, which is literally a piece of paper domed, like we always make name badges, similar product. What else have we got here, Glenda? We've got some cutouts.
Yeah, it's our titles.
Titles that are just
that's the board.
The board that's been changed. And really,
that's it.
There's just so much you can do. Then over here, a little bit different in that you can see different products have been used, including over here, our clock. This clock is
little ones over there.
Part of our acrylic set where we used our laminates to produce 4 different clocks, which you can then use different inks, different techniques to alter. So, for example, these sets here, we made millions of them, and we literally just went wild with all the different techniques in order to change them. But I'm not the talented one. I'm the one that sits in the background and just, and the lucky person who says yes, no, don't like, love, let's change. And Glenda is the one that comes up with the challenges of having to make everything work and different.
Yeah.
After scrapbooking, well, actually about the same time, we started realizing that we could do bigger projects and use our inks and use our products. And so the laser became even more important to us when we started cutting much larger projects. But I'm going to let Glenda tell you about this journey.
Okay. All right. Can I have the Merry Christmas one? Thank you. All right, so this was our very, very, very first venture into cutting with MDF, where it was just MDF and using paper and cutting our paper and putting it on top of the MDF and then adding a couple of embellishments and beads and flares and little Christmas trees, etc., painting it with normal hardware paint. This is, I think, is called Hammerite, to give it like a hammered look. So that was our very, very first one that we really started the whole project with using MDF. Okay, then from there, we then moved on to a little bit more of a different concept. And this one is a Christmas tree that stands on your table or as a Christmas decoration, where here we have used different elements. We've put bells onto it. We've done glitter. We've done layered different 6mm, 3mm MDF. We've used MDF that we have then used mica flakes on it. We've done texture paste on it. We've done intricate cutting and we've put foil behind it. And we've used what we call micro beads. We've used glitter tapes. We've used glitters. We've done, and then we've also done on the back as well, where we've done a technique using our stencils and different mediums using texture pastes and mousses and different products to create our background. All right, and then of course everything Christmas has to have glitter, so there's way too much glitter on everything. All right, and then we went on to something else. This is a Christmas wreath that we made, also on MDF, and then using different thicknesses of the MDF. This is using a specific texture paste that works with heat, and it then creates texture and almost like a 3D effect. We've used a triplex or board, we've used glitters, we've used acetate sheets, where we've used alcohol inks to make it semi-transparent. We've done little bits and pieces inside them that we can then have as an embellishment. We've done stamping using the stamps on paper. And then on the back, we've used stencils also with the different textures and using inks and things like that to actually decorate and to do it, because the back of a wreath is also important.
And for those of you who are wondering how you're possibly going to remember all of this, we have actually a PowerPoint presentation as part of our webinar. So don't try and remember it or write it down. Everything is available on the webinar. And then we also have our website, TroCraft, where all the products are as well available.
All right. Okay. So then this is a project that I taught at a local scrapbooking retreat last year. This is called Captured Moments, or Grand, whatever you want to call this. Is basically using our leather. We created the leather straps. This is actually board that we've used certain embossing powders on it to create textures and to look like it's an actual buckle. We've done different texture paste, we've done texture effects on the things, we've used stencils with different techniques. And if you go on to the other side as well, you can see that we've done board frames, we've done titles, we've used embossing powders, we've used certain products that we've put through embossing folders to create what we call skins, and we've layered it with different products and different projects so that we can create different effects. These are white flowers that come with the Penelope Dee range that we have then inked with different inks to change the color to suit our layouts. All right, so that's our globe. Now, a big question with everybody is, how do you treat MDFs? What do you work with? How do you start with MDFs? So I'm going to start with just showing you. This is our MDF. I've painted this one so that you can see, because I didn't think you would want to wait for paint to dry. So that's normal MDF. And the problem with MDF is that it soaks, the product soaks into it and it gives it a different feel. So now I wanted to show you, this here is a rough texture because this is now using a normal Dilutions acrylic paint. This is one coat. I haven't put a second coat onto it. But you have to understand the difference between a paint and gesso. So this is black gesso, and this is normal black acrylic paint. So the black paint or acrylic paint you can work with, but you have to understand that whatever you put on top, especially the fact that it's a water-based product, whatever you put on top will have a reaction if it's a water-based product. So for example, like if you're going to use like for example, the sprays, the ink sprays, and things like that, those are going to have a reaction to the paint unless you've heat set or sealed it. So it's much easier to rather always coat your board with a gesso, because gesso is a primer and it creates a barrier between the MDF and the product that you're going to apply to the MDF. Okay, so gesso, I just put a little bit onto it. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just wanted to show you the technique. I use what we call an ink blending tool and foam. I like foam instead of a paintbrush because you can pick up the foam at its broad bar and you can apply it. And what happens is as you apply the medium to the chipboard or to the MDF, you're not having the paint or the gesso running down the sides, and you're not wasting product. And at the same time, you get an even coverage. You can even use it as like a paintbrush if you want to. I like to stipple it because it kind of tends to go onto the board a lot easier. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. This is just to show you how to work with it. And also you can just keep going. And one coat is more than enough unless you really want to make a thick, darker, intense color. Okay, so that's MDF and gesso on MDF, and that is paint on MDF. Okay, you can't see it in color, just that this is far more porous than with the gesso. Okay, the gesso almost creates like a layer on top of it. Then we're going to use our stencils, which you can then place on top. This is a magnetic board, and you can use magnets to hold it down. It does work through the MDF as well to keep your stencil in place. And then there's two options that we can use. We can either use a stencil brush or we can use a palette knife. And we're going to use a product called Embellishment Mousse. This is made by a company called Nuvo. So in essence, it's like a smooth texture paste that has already got color. So this is what they call Indian gold. And then we got various different ones. I like to always use more different or various colors together and blend them as I work with them. Just make sure that when you're working with them that you don't contaminate the pots. Otherwise, you're going to have to clean them out so that they don't have a problem. All right, so just going to just put a little bit of the gold onto it. Okay, and we're going to then just in a circular fashion, we're going to work with that. Okay, don't know where my cloth's disappeared. I think it's on the. Okay, and then we're going to pick up some silver. And then you can blend the silver with the gold, should you wish to do that. Okay. Now this becomes more like a subtle effect on the MDF. Okay. I'm going to just remove this so that you can see. And then I'll choose another spot to show you when you use a palette knife. Okay, that's just using it with just the normal stencil brush. Okay, then we can put it back on. Okay, and now we're going to apply the same mousse with your palette knife. And you will see that it goes on almost like a thick paste. And that then will create texture rather than shading on your MDF. Okay, can you blend? Yes, absolutely, you can blend them. Okay, I'm just doing a section of it so you can see the result. Okay. And what's really nice is that there's so many different colors with this specific product. Okay, so now you've got the two options. Here you can see it's a far more subtle shading, where that is a far more intense color and texture. If you lift it, you can actually see the texture that it creates. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's MDF. Okay. So there's so many techniques you can do with MDF, from painting to inking to waxing. I'll show you a little bit of waxing. This is a metallic wax. It's made by a company called Prima, and it's a metallic wax. You can see it's almost like a gold finish. If you smell it, it smells like furniture polish, but it's actually really, really great to work with. You can use it either with a stencil brush. I prefer to use my fingers, and you can actually just add it onto the MDF and it will actually color it. I always like to use the different colors. So here's a silver. I think it's called branded old silver, this one. You get a branded silver or something like that as well. Okay, and you can actually just blend as you work with it. And you can now color the painted surface. Okay. All right, so you can also add different colors. There's so many colors that you can work with. There's reds, there's greens, there's purples, there's pinks. It's really, the options are endless. This is a really, really cool red that you can add to it.
While Glenda's telling you about the colors that are available, these waxes are so versatile on the acrylics as well in a throw glass. And dry beautifully when you're filling in reverse engraving, changing the surfaces of the throw glass, etc. There's really just so much you can do with these waxes, especially in the Trotec world.
Okay, so that's the wax with the MDF, the painted MDF. Okay, so just to give you a quick, this is a summary of basically what I did. using the globe, and then we created a stand as well so that it could stand and be part of your decor at home. And then, as I say, we used the leatherette to make little belts or buckles or whatever you want to call them. Okay. All right, the next one that we're going to discuss is, or going to show you a couple of techniques, is the wood. Okay, so these are part of a range that we did was middle of last year called Little Darling, and it was our baby range, if you want to call it, our little children's range. And this is engraved onto the wood, so it could either be used exactly like this, but you can also add certain products to this. And here I'm going to show you.
Glenda, I think you need to let everyone know that this is one of your top selling products. We launched these and we were making these day and night almost because we just could not keep up with these little
bears and teddy bears and rabbits. So this I'm going to show you as a comparison, and then I'll show you a couple of the techniques. So this is before any of the techniques, and that is after the technique. So you can see it's changed color. It's exactly from the same sheet of wood. I mean, have a look here. You could even add a little crown onto the little onto the little rabbit if you wanted to. You could add a little metal crown onto it. So you could do all sorts. You could even hang a little heart onto it as well. So you could really do it. You could little bows onto the top of the heart. And these are ideology charms that are also available from Trowcraft as well. Okay, so that's the little little rabbit. These are also wooden buttons that we also created and cut from the wood, and then all we did was put a little bit of thread through it and then adhered it to the rabbit. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that one shortly. And then we've got the bear, and that's before, and that is after the bear. So that's also, you can see the change of color, and we also have used inks onto this and also crayons. And these are called distress crayons. And what the distress crayons are come in so many colors. This is like heaven if you enjoy color. So I've used the ones to do the darker lines and the shading. I've used ground espresso. You could also use a color called gathered twig, or you could even use a color that's called walnut stain. Okay, even my crayon is stained. And what these are because part of the distress product, you get distress ink, markers, crayons, paints. And what it is that distress reacts with water and is blendable with one another. So this is a crayon, okay, that you can now use. That it's not like a gelato. It's actually like a crayon. But what it does, it reacts with water. So if you had to put this onto something, it waits for you to give it the instruction as to where you want it to go by using water. And that's why you use a distress sprayer, which has got a little spray bottle, which then you can spray onto the wood to then create it. So I'm going to just do this teddy bear one so that you can see what we're going to do. And then I'll show you the other one as well. So this, all you're going to do is you use the crayon and you push it into with the graved areas. Now you can either push it in with your fingers, or you can use a bit of water. Okay, and now you can blend it in to the, once this is into the groove, you can then use your wet wipe to actually pick up the color and to start to move it around to shade. Now automatically you can see that it is now darker than the other side. All right, and then once this is dry, it is permanent. Okay, you cannot, it's there, it won't rub out. You can see, I can try and move it, it's not going to move the color out of those. Okay, it's the same thing with the face. And then you can also add a little bit of, if you want to do the eyes, let's look for one called Faded Jeans. It's a dark blue. If you wanted green eyes, you could always push the crayon into the engraved section. Okay, looks like he's got a black eye now. Okay, remember, using a bit of water And we're going to then pick up and move the color around. Okay, so that's using Distress crayons. Then you're going to use a product called Distress Spray Stain, which is a ink in a liquid form. You can either spray it directly onto the engraved section, or you can put it onto a surface like I've used onto here, and then apply it with a brush. It's really up to you and what you feel comfortable with. If you make a mistake on this, you can always dab it up with a wet wipe, but it won't remove all of it. Okay, you don't need to shake or mix. Okay, I'm going to do it like that so that you can see. If I wipe it off the piece that has not been engraved, it's easy to wipe. Okay, but because the engraved section tends to be a little bit more porous, you can then use a brush and you can actually move it around to actually color the engraved section. Okay. And then just dab to pick up the extra color. All right. So that's as easy how to to color the different engraved sections. The little rabbit, to color the little dots that have been done on the scarf, I used a product called a glitter marker by the same company that did all the embellishment mousse. It's called Nuvo. And what it is a glitter marker. And all you do is you just dab onto the dots. Okay, and they do not rub off when they are dry. Okay, so that's exactly the same technique as what I did with the bear, the same ideas with the different distress crayons to color. If you wanted to use black, you could use black. You could even use a metallic. The crayons even come in a set of metallics, so you could do bronze or copper or silver that works with it as well. All right, any questions on those ones? All fine. Okay. And remember, you can never have too many colors. Always good to have a variety and a choice. Okay. All right.
Hetty has asked if she is able to get the layout instructions for the product itself. These have all been used, Hetty, as part of other projects. But I'm sure you can contact Glenda, and if she has them available, she is the person to answer that question in terms of the designs.
Yeah, just contact me directly. Yeah, it's perfect, no problem. All right, now we're going to move on to our acrylic. And this for me was something that I had never really used before. So for me, this was a whole new area. And when you get something that looks like this, where it's clear, and you actually don't know which way to go, this one is actually engraved from reverse engraving. And this one here is just normal. But for me to use it on its own was, okay, that's all right. But I needed something that had a little bit more color to it and a little bit more technique. So I created that, okay, with it. And all that is using alcohol ink. And there's various alcohol inks. So the green that you're seeing behind here is just a normal alcohol ink. Okay, so I've got a box of color. So this is alcohol ink. Okay, this is called patina. All right, and then I used a product on top of it. Well, I'll just put it back. It's called an alloy. Okay, there's an alloy. This is the gold. All right, now an alloy has got a almost like a mica pearlescent in it. You have to shake it up. You'll see it's got like a ball bearing in it because you have to mix it to work with it. Now, normally alcohol doesn't work on acrylic. All right, so here's another example of working with alcohol ink on the acrylic. Right, and there's one that we've used a snow cap mixative to make it more opaque and not transparent, because these are transparent inks. Okay, so how do we work with alcohol ink on acrylic? Now, generally speaking, if you use alcohol onto acrylic, am I correct in saying it cracks it?
It normally cracks. Alcohol on acrylic will usually crack acrylic. Peter, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so the difference with this is that you use a blending solution called alcohol blending solution, which has got a resin in it. So what happens is it helps to bind the alcohol ink onto the different products, and you would need an ink blending tool with felt. Okay, these come already pre-cut, but it doesn't mean that you can't go to a haberdashery store and buy white felt and cut them into circles, but I think it's a lot easier just to buy them pre-made and not having to go through all the fuss.
And I think also the gentleman that designed those or started the trend of using those really deserves some recognition, because everybody uses that product and because it's so easy to use.
Yeah, and he tells you can go and use it, but I just don't. It's and the gentleman that did this is an incredible designer and artist. His name is Tim Holtz. And he's behind many of the products that I've used today, with all the distress sprays and the distress inks and crayons. He is really an amazing and inspiring designer. Okay, so what do we use? Okay, all of the ink blending tools have got a flat bottom so that they can stand. So when you're wanting to add different inks and that, you can do that. So all it takes is just a drop or two of your alcohol ink onto your ink pad, and then you will use an ink blending tool, ink blending solution on top of it just to keep it fluid. All right, and then you can dab onto the acrylic. Okay, now if you want to, you can also put it straight onto the alcohol, onto the acrylic. And you can see already it reacts with what's on and with the alcohol blending solution as well. You can drop a drop or two onto that as well, and it will create almost a marbling effect. Okay. All right. So now I can just go and just move to what I want it to look like. I can have shading more onto the one side and onto the other. Then we can add alloy. Now, an alloy is like a metallic alcohol ink. These are my absolute favorites. This one here is called Foundry. I think must be my all-time favorite. It's almost platinum with a bit of gold onto it. Now, because it's got alcohol, it cannot be air freighted, so it is sea freighted to South Africa. Okay, as you can see, as you put it on, how the particles, you can see the glittering of the particles. Now it won't do anything until such time as you add. Now you can see the reaction with the alcohol blending solution. And what it does is you can move it around and you can then react with the alcohol ink underneath it. Okay, and you can pick up with the same, and you can move it around onto the acrylic. Okay. All right. So I've done a couple of larger acrylic pieces so that you can see what I've done. This one here is reversed engraving. So what I did was to get this. This is what, silver with black at the back, eh?
It's silver. It's reverse engraving silver, so it's clear at the back.
All right. So what I did was I used alcohol ink to fill all the colors, and then I also, where I wanted more intense colors, like you can see for example here, I have used the waxes to actually fill in behind as well to create more of a shimmer with the alcohol ink. Okay. Then this one here, I have to show you this on the color because it's not going to show otherwise. This is where we've used a normal clear that's been engraved, and we
clear female.
Okay, you know the products, I just know them as stuff to work with. Okay. All right, creative opportunities. Okay, so this one I wanted to show you on, like, for example, a glitter sheet, or you could do anything underneath it. You could use paper, you could use photographs, you could do all sorts of where you can actually put it behind. And this one here, I have used the waxes to actually do it. I did the one is the silver, and I used a little bit of the red with it. And you can also use what they call a matte black, which is like a charcoal black. It's almost like a blue. So you can play around with the different colors and actually fill those up. Okay. So I left the plastic on the back because I was just, or the coating on the back, because then it's easier to see what you're working with. And then you just use, as normal, you can just use a stencil brush, and you can stencil into the engraved sections. And you can really use all the different colors that you really want to use, blending different colors. For me, one color is you need more color to add dimension. Okay. Okay, and don't worry about what's on the outside. You can wipe that off with a soft cloth. At the moment, we're just trying to get into the actual engraved sections.
And using that brush means you have a lot less wastage, Glenda, am I correct?
Yes, absolutely, because you're basically recycling what's left around it. Okay. Can you use the crayon on here? Yes, you can, but I just found that the larger areas, it's a lot easier to use a wax than the crayons, because you need the crayons to dry a little bit and then wipe off, and you stand a chance that it's either too dry or too not ready to be removed. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole one, just to show you how to work with the different wax to fill in the different sections. Okay. Nope, not at all. Okay, and then all you do is you just wipe the acrylic, and it removes all the excess that's on the top and leaves what's in. Okay, so now you wanted to add another color, you could then go in and add an extra color onto that on. So for example, if we wanted to use what color? The red. This is one of my favorite reds. It's okay. Right, you can then go and use it by hand, or you can use your stencil brush. You can go and blend in the red if you want more red. You just make it more intense. Okay. So now
I guess that tile's never going to be used again.
Oh, yes. No, it goes into my washing machine.
Okay.
This is designed for my scrapbooking and my crafting. This was given to me by Tim and Mario when I was in the United States, and we've got lots of them that we keep using. But you can use any muslin cloth, normal soft cloth, as long as it's not an abrasive on the acrylic. Okay, so once you've got the look that you would like, you can then peel off the back. Okay, and then you will then stamp. Okay, I know this is a tricky part of the piece. Okay, I'm going to use this underneath it, so it gives you contrast so that we can see what we're doing, or even, okay, yep. Okay, and then we're going to stamp. Now, this is our stamps that we make using the rubber, but to keep the costs down, we don't put a self-adhesive foam at the back. So what we do is we just use double-sided tape on an acrylic block that we then adhere the stamp to the acrylic block.
Using the acrylic block means you can see exactly where you're stamping,
yes,
which is a real benefit to you.
Absolutely.
When you're doing a technique like this.
Okay, and then we use a solvent ink. I use StazOn because it's the one that you can stamp and it doesn't smudge, and it might take a little while to dry, but basically it's much easier to work with. All right, so
it's an alcohol-based ink. It dries by evaporation, so you don't need any other products on top of it, like an embossing powder. It will dry on that glossy surface.
Okay, so why do we do it now? A lot of people do where they take the stamp and they push the stamp into the stamp pad, okay, which is not correct because you've got no control as to how much ink is going onto the stamp. So you rather put the stamp down and you gently tap the stamp pad onto the stamp, and then you then take your stamp and you decide where you want to put it. Okay.
My first stamping lesson was by a very old rubber stamp maker in Pretoria, who told me that you do not ink up a stamp like you work in the post office.
Mm-hmm.
You kiss it.
That's exactly it. And you don't need to do CPR on your stamps either. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. There we go. And now you will then re-ink the stamp. Okay. And now you can continue around. Your best technique is to actually stand and stamp, not sit and stamp. Okay, but because of today, we're just going to sit and hopefully it will suffice. Okay, so you will then continue all the way around your stamp, your acrylic, and then you will land up with this looking like that. Okay, we have to have the 12 at the top. Where is the 12? Can't even find it now. Okay. And that's how you can then put color underneath it. You could, as I say, you could put glitter sheets underneath it. It's really up to you. If you want to just pass me some of that paper there, you could even use some of the Penelope Dee paper. We could even do that underneath it as well. Thank you. Okay, you could do something like that underneath. You could even do the red if you wanted to, but this one here, I think the red and the black will fight with one another for competition, but there you go.
It actually shows up beautifully.
Beautifully, yes. Okay, you could then put a dome in the middle. You could do, for example, you could even take one of the previous clocks or whatever. You could put the smaller clock in the middle. You could really put pearls in the middle. You could do all sorts with things in the middle.
You could even put real clock handles on if you really wanted to, just by making
absolutely
the hole in the middle and getting a clock mechanism. So you can really produce quite a unique gift.
Absolutely. And you know how nice these are as place settings at Christmas time.
Sure, that's a lot of work if you're having 30 people.
But it's worth it. Okay. All right. One thing about alcohol ink as well, it is one of the most forgiving mediums. If you've made a mistake, all you do is you just add more alcohol blending solution and felt, and you can actually wipe it clean off and start again. I've done charger plates where I've had done them at Christmas time with a specific color scheme, and then you put them in your dishwasher and the color washes off. Wow. Okay.
I think, you know, alcohol ink is so versatile. It's even used on acrylic nails.
Yes.
So really very, very versatile.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And the Ranger alcohol ink for me is just a superior product. It's just, there are alcohol inks out there, I know, but tried and tested. I know I don't have to second guess the product.
We love Ranger.
Oh, yes, we do. All right. Then the next one is triplex. Now, this for me has become a love because we like to keep the scrapbooking quite flat. So this is just normal engraved board that we've done. And then we've just used crayon, the normal distress crayon, to rub into the engraved section to darken it. Okay, so here I'm going to show you this one. This is the original engraved board that we've done, and then these are afterwards. This is using a distress spray, which you then color, which then darkens the engraved areas, and then you can apply, for example, this one here. I've used the product called Sparks. It's by a company called Prima, and it's an acrylic paint. And I've used a brayer, and I've actually brayed the paint onto the top of the chipboard. Onto the board. Okay, so here's a blue one. That's just basically, that's just inked with the Distress Spray Stain. So you can see how it colors and it darkens where the engraved areas are. And then, as I say, you then apply it. But if you didn't want to use paint, you could then use the alcohol alloy that I showed you earlier on the alcohol thing, and you can actually swipe that over the chipboard. Because the chipboard is glossy, the alcohol ink, and especially the alloys, will really, really work well onto the glossy surface, because alcohol ink does not like porous surfaces. Okay. Here's a couple of other options, same thing. This is the same as that, but this time I've used ink, and then I've used clear embossing powder over the colored ink. And then this one here, the same technique as this, except I used black, and then I've used a gold ink pad that I've just swiped over the top of the non-engraved section. So the engraved sections are what's darker. But then we could do the reverse. And then we can have some really funky looking with orange that I used underneath. Orange. That we then used black ink pad over the top to pull out the black areas. Okay. And this is also, you saw on the initial one, that's the flowers that I've used, where I've just used different colors of distress stains. So for example, I've used that one and I've used that together, and that's what created the multicolor one. And then if you want to lighten it or add areas, you can always use white gesso to lighten some of the areas as well. Okay, here's an arrow that we've created, doing the same thing, black underneath, swiped over with a gold pigment ink. Okay, then the other one that we've got is a Trocraft. Okay, so
this is Glenda's all-time favorite product.
I absolutely
We wish we were
love.
going to have more of it in our
Okay.
range.
All right, so basically all it is just, that's it, engraved. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to work with. All right, let's turn it over so we don't get, this is a spray stain. Okay. All right, so now it goes into all right, so now that's a spray stain. And I'm going to show you the difference if you use a oxide. Now, oxide is a combination of a distress ink and between a pigment
And a dye.
and a dye ink. Okay, so this is a pigment ink. This is a dye. No, this is a dye ink. This is a pigment ink. Okay, so what happens is that it's far more stable and it's not translucent. So if I spray it, you'll see it actually is darker and it goes into the product. All right, so let's just clean this off. Promise it comes off. It's a water-based product. Okay, so once you've done that, it's a good idea to use a heat tool, and you're then going to dry it. Okay, and
So the pigment ink takes longer to dry.
yes, and it's far more opaque than a dye ink. A dye ink is translucent. It's whatever underneath it shines through.
It's very much like a water.
Yes, it's like using colorant water. Okay, so now you just need to make sure that this is really, really dry. And then you're going to use a product called Color Box. And these are metallics. This is platinum, and then you get rose gold, and what's this one, bronze. All right, so I've used two different colors. So the first one I just use on top, I just use swipe over it. Okay, you can decide how intense you want to make the color. All right. I'm going to just heat set it because I need to add a color on top. One of my favorite colors is platinum and the other one is rose gold. So I'll use rose gold on top. And then you just swipe on top to get a different dimension. Easy, easy, easy. And that's as easy it is to transform it into however you want to make them. You could even do, let's try a little bit of copper on this one as well. So you can actually start layering the different colors as you work with them. Okay, how's that? Okay, so that's all for today. I don't think we've left anything out.
No, I think we really just have to thank you for sharing all your techniques. There is one question. Where can we get these crayons and wax, etc.? Well, if you're from South Africa, these are available at most scrapbooking shops. If they don't have it, they are certainly able to buy them and get them for you on special order. So everybody knows about the range of products that has a scrapbooking shop. A lot of the stationery stores, such as the P&As, also do these. So you really have quite a wide range in South Africa.
In Europe?
In Europe, of course, there's exactly the same scrapbooking shops, but most of the things, the European ones are online, but I would have to find out. But I have a feeling this is a South African question.
South African question, okay. All right, so I'm just going to put a whole lot of things on here that we've done.
So I think to close off, we'd just like to really say thank you so much to Glenda for sharing her talents with us. It really is amazing what she is able to do. And this is really just the tip on the iceberg. We could spend days teaching you product, literally days.
Oh, it's like, this is my passion.
And Glenda has an absolute passion for it. And she certainly would obviously volunteer to show you more if you're interested. So please let us know. We'd love some feedback. So thank you very, very much. We really appreciate everyone who's joined us today. And we wish you the happiest and happiest of weekends.
Yes, and happy crafting.
Great. Thank you, Glenda, once again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.